Quite often after your first season at a club, it's time for a bit of a rebuild. And as you can see by that, we've got some work to do. And work we did do. With 30 plus going out, we replaced them with 9 brand new players for the squad. Now I showed you most of them last time, but an extra standout signing is this man, Filippo Melangoni. He is far too good for us and spent last season in Serie A with Genoa. A closer look shows we have pushed the boat out, giving him £4,000 a week. And that has put our finances in a bit of a perilous situation. And as you can see, the wage budget, his 4,000 is the one that's tipping us over the edge. But he does take his place in the team alongside our boy Yaya Luati. And you'll also notice we have our new centre-back in Krastev. It's pretty mad to say that we've got a current Bulgarian international playing down in Serie B. He comes in from Fiorentina. Now the squad's more of a manageable size. When you first get to a team and you've got too many players, it gets a bit daunting. And you can see how much I've slimmed down the under-20s and the under-18s. But then, this happened. Rizzo, wanted by a host of teams in Italy. Bids are coming in. I'm not accepting that, no way. So here we are, folks. We're into season number 2. We're going to go with the same formation. And may I add, I am awful at back 3 formations. So the fact we're getting a bit of success with this is a miracle. But a closer look at the team there, you'll notice one big difference. Have you seen it yet? Have you seen it? Maybe this will give you an insight. Suddenly, the financial situation is very good. And that's because we managed to bring in 1 million in transfers out. But it's all from one player. That's right. Rizzo finally got his way and we had to sell him to Serie A Bologna. Now we've got 1 million for him. But he is a chosen one player that has gone. But we've bought ourselves some time for 1 season because we've managed to get a loan back for this season. Now remember the rules, this was always a possibility, and that bottom one there, if clauses are hit or they age out, they must be replaced by youth players from the club. So this now means we have a decision to make to find our next chosen one player, but thankfully we've got to the end of the season to decide it. And we focused on those youth players last time, didn't we? So it turns out that one of them is going to have to slot into the chosen one position, and we'll decide that later on. I'll chuck them on the end of the video. We've got about a clutch of 4 candidates that can be the one to change places, in effect with Rizzo for season 3. But for season 2, you can remain. With that bombshell out the way, it was time for a new season and some new teams in our league. Season preview has us down in 7th, and you'll see the new teams in our league: AC Milan B and Brescia, who are free falling down the leagues. And when you look at the Dream 11, it's pretty much packed with basically those AC Milan and Brescia players, including standouts like Luca Romero, so this is going to be a battle to topple them. But we're making no changes to the tactic, but we do have those alternates that I showed you last time. So the main one is that we've got this alternate there where we push another attacking midfielder up, and then in emergency situations we might jump to that on occasion. As the season got going, we started with an absolute boom, scoring 5 against Trento. New players were settling in well, and Shanetti still looked like he had it at the age of 34. Followed that up with a 0-0 and then another, and if you look at the chances, this is going to be a recurring theme of our early season. Our first big test was against Brescia away from home, and we've passed it with flying colours. It was 2-2, we're probably the better team though, and absolutely dominating ball. We made another late signing in the transfer window as Alessandro Cortinovis came in, released by Atalanta. Against old rivals Padova, we somehow managed to lose from a winning position, conceding in the 90th and 94th minute, and again, look at those match stats. I can feel the frustration building. After a bad Derby Day defeat away to Novara, our start to the season was pretty bad. I was starting to think maybe it was a case of too many transfers in, too many transfers out. Maybe the chemistry was taking a little while to get going. Slight tweaks followed to the tactic, mostly from player instructions, and when we played AC Milan, they seemed to pay it off. Milan should be the best team in this league, and we sliced them up. This led to an uptick in form, getting some wins back, but games like this were just too common. I mean, look at that. 27 shots, 68% possession. Our opposition had 2, and they got a draw. I mean, that is just disgusting. It meant by the 1st of December we were slotted down in 8th position, with Padova absolutely storming clear again. So a sea of inconsistency, and I was conceding too many goals. If I look at it a bit closer, you can see us down in 8th. We've scored 41 times, so we're the top scorers in the league, but we've conceded 26. Now if you compare that to the entirety of last season, where we only conceded 38, but it's the same tactic, you can see the frustrations that I've got. Now I always read the comments, and one comment was really good in that they analysed Pablo Perez probably a bit closer than I did and realised he's probably more of a winger than he is a defender. You can see there his positioning is only 9, his tackling's not great either, And when I'm watching it in matches, a lot of the goals are coming down this side. And if you pair him up with the attacking midfielder, there's going to be gaps down there, isn't there? So it's something I need to look at. I mean, to be fair to him, going forward, he has supplied 5 assists, so he's doing his job that way. But it's maybe on me to maybe ask Luati to be a bit less attacking. Maybe he's getting too far forward and the gaps for Di Marino to deal with are just too much. So time went forward a bit and we were still absolutely dominating matches, but not getting the results I wanted. So I went into the data hub and had a look at team performance and pulled up some key metrics. The first one was our defending performance. As you can see, we're way down here, basically the worst team in terms of blocks and clearances. We make fewer blocks than the average team and fewer clearances. Not good. Then I pulled up defensive efficiency, and again, this was worrying reading. Because despite having quite a quiet defence, meaning we're dominating the matches, shots that the opposition are having are basically going in. Is his head in Bologna already? Then I thought maybe we're not winning the ball back enough. Now, our tackling stats aren't great, but they're not the worst in the league either. But looking at possession won, we are not winning the ball back at a rate that we should be. So for the boys in the middle, I did add tackle harder to both central midfielders. And despite only one defeat in December and January, too many draws, still too inconsistent, which meant with a third of the season to go, we need to ready ourselves for the playoffs because there's no way we're catching Brescia. Comfortably, one of the most frustrating seasons I've had on FM. Now, I'll show you why. We're sitting in 8th, right? But we have only lost 6 matches. But I'm playing all these matches on extended, sometimes incomprehensive, and the amount of chances is ridiculous. And this will show you. This is the league table, but if I go to the XG table, you can see we should be way higher up. We should be challenging in 4th, but we're missing so many chances. We're down in 8th. We should be comfortably getting in the playoffs, but it should be so much better. So I've been trying to make this tactic work because I'm determined to see the season out with 3 at the back. So there's been tweaks to player instructions, mostly to the wing backs and the central midfielders. But we do have a new plan B, which I just brought in the last match, late in the last match, and he completely flipped the match. This match here, we were struggling, losing, and then I flipped it in the 70th minute, and you can see the response. Goals in the 73rd, 88th, and then 2 in injury time, all from a slight change, and here it is. So with this position, when the wing backs don't perform, we struggle down the wide areas. So we brought this in for that match on the 70th minute, and it completely changed the game. Maybe this is something to look at for the rest of the season to experiment, because we're definitely going to be in those dreaded playoffs yet again. As for the future chosen one, it will have to be from those clutch of players last season, because we've had a preview of our next youth intake and it's just a good intake. However, there was some good news as our youngster Pelagate, there he is, managed to score his first goal for the club off the bench at just 16 years of age. He's now 17 and his attributes are starting to climb. Could he be the chosen one player? Need to wash though. So we have that clutch of matches there just to solidify our place in the playoffs. And for that, we might well experiment with this new version of the 3 at the back. So Rizzo's time at the club is coming to an end, so it's decision time on who will be his chosen one's replacement. The new tactics started to look good. Quality win over AC Milan, and then in the next match we win 4-1 and our 16-year-old scores again. That earned him a start in the next match and he laid on an assist for Yaya. And then not long after that he scored this absolute howitzer. So the good run had continued. Ever since we made those slight tweaks and pushed them boys out wide, we have been on fire. And we must be doing something right because Palmero came in offering us a job. Might not sound a big deal, but they are in Serie A at the minute. But not for us, we've got a job to do at Vercelli. It was getting late in the season and it's that time for the intake of youth players. I wasn't expecting much, but there was one player who stood out like a sore thumb. This is Stefano Socci. My question to you is, what would you do with him? Bear in mind he's 6'4". Straight away I see forward. Finishing and composure can be worked on, but his physicals are already fantastic. So what a time we have had since we switched to this formation. We only used it for one game last time I saw you, but I've used it every match since. We've shot up to 5th in the league with about 3 or 4 games left. And this is important because home advantage comes into play in the playoffs. And also they've got that funky rule in Italy where if you draw against a team lower down than you go through as a higher seed. So to get this working well, Luati's role has completely changed. Instead of breaking forward as a Seconde Volante like we had him in the other tactic, he's now a deep line playmaker and just pinging balls around, allowing all the other boys to do the running, such as the wing backs and the wider players, meaning that the three centre backs have got a double shield now in front of them. And chosen one, Ruti Giuliano, has now turned into a sole striker. And that's interesting because if you look at his goal tally, currently sat on 24, he's on the verge of breaking a record for Pro Vercelli for goals in a season that has stood since 1912. The good run continued and I was giving Moretti more and more playing time. The only downer was Lotti. Our right back went down with a really bad injury. He's going to miss the rest of the season. He's out for 5 months. That was a further blow against our rivals from last year's playoff, Azignano. With Lotti injured and his backup injured as well, I had no one to play right wing back, and they did this. They scored in the 86th, 91st and 93rd minute to turn the game around and beat us 4-5. As much as that hurt, it couldn't stop our good run, and we stormed into the playoffs as the form team. But don't forget, there's a long way to go. We've got so many matches to get through, including some 2-leg games. We're about to attack these playoffs and we're going to use this formation because it has ripped it up since we started using it. But you'll notice at right back, we have an unfaced man because I've got both my right backs injured and he's the only man who can play there. And he's thoroughly average. We desperately need one of the boys to get back fit. But as a season, how have the chosen ones done this year? Well, we know about Rizzo. He is off back to his parent club at the end of this season. So we've got a big decision to make. The rest of them, Kalina has been tracked by teams all season. They've just dropped their interest now. He's only 18. I think we sometimes forget that. He's in his second season. He's already played 69 games for us. Di Marino is just super solid. He's the most unspectacular of the chosen one players, but he never lets us down. And Luati, who has now been rechristened Yaya Luati, he's had his best season yet. He's really enjoyed going back to a deep line playmaker with 8 goals and 6 assists. Big change for Condello. He used to be the main man up front, but now he's shifted out to that right hand side as an inside forward. It's taken a little while to get used to it. He's a little bit inconsistent, but I think he'll be alright. But Ruti Giuliano has proper stepped up. This is his favourite position and he's really blossomed being a sole striker. Now you might have noticed I have brought some trait training in for a few of the chosen one players now as well. I'm asking Kalina to mark opponent tightly. He learned that pretty fast. Condello has learned likes to try to beat the offside trap, and Yaya, he's currently learning tries killer balls often, which with his new role will suit him perfectly. And as for Ruti Giuliano, I'm not sure what trait to train him on yet. Any thoughts? While I did this, I thought I might as well give some of the youth players with promise some trait training as well. So Di Erico, who looks like a really promising winger, he's starting to learn runs with ball often, which makes sense when you look at his dribbling and acceleration. And then I thought, how about Elton Sulaj, the Albanian midfielder? But the kid's already got 3 player traits that are really good already. He's going to be a diamond. So the dreaded playoffs began and we started really well. A couple of thumping goals in this one got us through the first round pretty comfortably. Which meant in the next round we had Trikestina, who finished just 1 place below us in our league. And in an absolute nothing match, finishing above them in the league proved vital as we went through as the higher ranked seed.
What?
Next up we played a team from a different section. It was Juve Stabia. First game at home, it's an absolute disaster as Yaya turns it into his own net. We were pretty poor in this one and lost 1-0. But don't fret folks, we're not out. It's 2 legs in this one, and in the second leg we started really well. That was a boomer from Guerrero. Condello then did this. A stunning away performance got us through 3-1 on aggregate. Into the quarterfinals next, and there's some big teams still in this. Now the competition was getting a bit spicy, but we're like a different team now. We win the first leg of the quarterfinal 4-1, and you know what? We absolutely cruise the second leg and go through 6-1 on aggregate. Team chemistry is through the roof, and 16-year-old Moretti has started the last 5 matches. And against Pescara in the semis, he was the man who gave us an early lead. They had no answer for us, and we absolutely battered them. A stunning first leg performance. In the second leg, away from home, we went with a defensive mentality, and we locked it down pretty comfortably, getting a 1-1 for a 1-5 aggregate. And that massive journey means that we have got ourselves into the playoff final and we will face old rivals AC Milan B. What I'm intrigued about here is, we are now in the 8th of June if you can see up there. Will they bring in some big guns? Are they even allowed to do that? I don't even know. But if you go into the data hub and check out our previous meetings, we've beat them twice this season 2-0. Signs are good. The only thing eating away at me a little bit is when we did play them and beat them, we were using the narrow formation because they play a 4-4-2. So do we go back to that? But that would mean a big change from this massive run we've been on, playing like that. One thing's for sure though, Moretti does start the match. You can see there, he's 16, right? But his last 5 matches, he's scored 2 times. He's flying. Add that to the fact we don't really have a player who's natural playing there other than Ruti Giuliano, but we need him to stay up front. So at the minute, he's the man, which makes me think, as far as the chosen ones go for next season, he's slightly ahead of Pelagata, who was the other main candidate, although his attributes are shining. So this was it. It was us versus AC Milan B team to see who can get into Serie B. So the Season 3 rebuild was a go, and we started off with staff, and you can see how brutal I've been. No decision made means I'm going to release them. I'm releasing well over 50% of the current staff team. I have decided to keep fitness coach Mauro Franzetti, mostly because he looks like Better Call Saul. As far as the team goes, there's a couple of key positions that we're going to need to improve. Obviously, first off, we need a new goalkeeper because Rizzo does leave the club, and I'm looking yet again for another central defender to play alongside the 2 chosen ones of Collina and Di Marino. Higher up the pitch, we're pretty limited if we're going to keep this formation because these 3 are now chosen 1 players, so they have to start every match. And bringing in players is going to be a bit of a problem as we continue to hemorrhage money. We're now £2 million in debt, which is a big worry because with teams chasing players like Collina, it may be taken out of our hands if the board want to take the money. Our first season in Serie B, and it's going to be a big task. As you can see from the pre-season odds, you'll find us down at 350 to 1, predicted to finish bottom by a good margin. So how did we go about improving the squad? We had nothing to spend, literally nothing. We managed to bring in a good 6 or 7 players, spending a big fat 0. So when I was looking to improve this squad, it was the attribute range we talked about in episode 1 of this story. Now we're in Serie B, we're looking for attributes, key attributes between 12 and 15. This led to our first signing of left wing-back Jan Oliveras, who has been released by Roma. He looks like a player with great potential in that left wing slot. The next free transfer was Matteo Della Morta, released by Benevento. He's right on the brink of the attributes we need. Lots of 13s, 12s, 14s. A good all-round player who can provide good backup to the chosen one front line. I had a desperate search for a goalkeeper. I could not find one until right late in the transfer window, and Alberto Paleri comes in. He's been a backup for big teams like Torino. He'll do for this season. Not spectacular, but solid. Now, the first big key signing was a new centre-back, Juan Cruz Guason, who comes in from Sarmiento, and he could be a key player. He's already ranked as our best central defender. Our only loan signing next, Adam Bakun, comes in from Roma as a right wing back. He starts actually at our rivals AC Milan, so good little backstory there. But he's a right wing back at 6'5". We also beefed out the squad with a couple of squad player signings, literally backups just to beef up the squad. And as usual, after listening to you guys, I've made a decision on some of the youth players. They are still in the first team squad, but we're sending them out on loan. Giovanni Agresta's got a full season loan in Serie D. I'm hoping he plays a lot. He's only 17, so let's keep an eye on his attributes. Now, Elton Sulaj has gone back on loan to Albania. He's had a great start there, and look at those attributes rising. We've got serious attribute growth coming in here. It looks like the right move already. I toyed with this one, but I have sent Pelagata out on loan to Serie G. He's going to play every match there, and again, attributes storming up. Now, with the financial problems we do have, we literally can't spend any money. That decision to send those boys out on loan means our squad is really tight. We've got our first 11 and we've got our bench, and that's it. That's all we've got to play with. It's very, very tough. You can see why we're ranked as bottom of the league in terms of predictions. But I do think this man will be the key signing. You can already see his value is 1.4 to 1.9 million. He's definitely a class above what we've got. He's got a jumping reach of 17. You add that to 6'4", he's going to be a threat from corners. I wanted to put my own stamp on my coaching team, and that's exactly what I've done. I've got a new assistant manager in Ragnar Sigurdsson, solid. Shea Given comes in as our goalkeeping coach. We've got Shivu as well, who can focus on the defensive side of the game. And Alberto Aquilani, who's just a good all-round coach. So tactically, because this tactic did so well last season, it makes sense to stick with it. And this is where this gets a little bit tough. With Rizzo going out, we saw Moretti is now the new chosen one. But for Serie B, it's probably too early for him. He's only 17, but he's got to play every match now. And this is why this save is so tough, because if we don't get going well, start well with this formation, those three have to play. So we might have to think of a plan B, which helps us get a non-chosen ones player into an attacking slot. Possibly a 4-2-4, possibly a 4-2-3-1. Our Serie B journey started with an away game against Cremonese. This was really harsh as we lost to a set piece and a penalty. And if you look at the match stats, we definitely deserve more. However, in the next match, our first home game against Entella, we performed really well. Moretti with the assist for Condella. He scored 2 in this match, including this wonder free kick. With our new set piece for Guasson scoring from a corner, we got a 3-1 win. But then the harsh realities of Serie B hit us again when we played really well away to Cosenza and lost 3-2. So Condella has started the season fantastically, scoring 3 and 3. He's going to be so important this season. So as far as the plan B goes, I'm going to rule out the tactic we used in season 1. So plan A will be this, and I've got a couple of thoughts about plan B. The first one is potentially moving Moretti and Condella into strikers, so 3 up front, and then drop into a strictly counter-attacking game. And the next one is completely ripping the script up. Losing the 3 at the back, which would enable us to move Marino to left back and having a centre-back pairing of Colina and Guasson, dropping the right wing back to right back, having a solid back 4. What this will do is, we could have the 2 central midfielders, then this position here would become available to be an extra attacking midfielder perhaps, or even an extra striker, meaning we can bring someone in who's not a chosen one player to help us get some goals. Because remember, Moretti, Ruticolano, Condello, Yaya, Colina and Di Marino have to start. This is where the save stipulation starts to get a bit tricky when we start getting ahead of the progress of some of our players. Moretti's going to be a great player. He's not ready yet. Now, if someone was to take Colina from us, for example, we're going to have to recall centre-back Agresta, who is nowhere near ready. In fact, I think he's just valued at a Serie C. And that's where this save will get really, really tough. But after 3 matches, we're sitting in 10th place. Obviously, the only object of this season is to survive. Somehow survive, but you can always have a little eye on ambition. And this is the rules of Serie B for people who are not familiar with Italian football. Your top 2 automatically promoted to Serie A. 3rd place is pretty funky. You can see it says promoted to Serie A or playoff, and this is why. You get up to Serie A if more than 14 points separate you from 4th position. So basically, if you absolutely earn it and deserve to go up, you're going to go up. If not, you will drop into the playoffs. Alongside 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th and 8th. So the top 8 gives you a chance of getting promoted to Serie A. What we need to worry about probably though, more likely this season, is here. Bottom 3 straight up relegated back to Serie C, which would be a disaster for us, both financially and basically for team morale. Then you've got the playouts here. Similar story here. If fewer than 5 points separate 16th and 17th, you go to a playout, but you go automatically down if it's 4 points. It's complicated, but in a weird way, I think it kind of makes sense. It makes sense in the 3rd place one, I kind of like. Remember all the championship teams in England who nearly get promoted in that top 2, then they go into the playoffs and they always get knocked out. They're very rarely the 3rd place team in the championship in England gets promoted to the Premier League. So that kind of guards you against it if you deserve it. Quite like it. Our big problem here is we can't really bring anyone in. We might be able to push to bring one player in on a free transfer, especially with that plan B in mind. There is an absolute truckload of free transfers available. Like, if we had some money, the side we could build with free transfers is crazy. For example, the couple of scouts I do have working have found all these players. Now, these guys are on free transfers. The first one is Romario Beiro. Look at that. I mean, what a central midfielder he would be, given his great versatility, and he's just a class above. You've also got someone like Juan Artola. Again, he can play across the forward positions. There's players there available on free transfers. We just can't afford them. So back to our youth setup, that's going to be where we find most of our players. And the good news is Diarico is now 17. He's eligible for a pro contract. We'll give him that. We'll try and get him out on loan. His physicals are through the roof. He's going to be a baller. It's pretty obvious we're going to have a long, hard season. A long, hard season. If you look at it, one of our star men from last season, remember he scored 30 goals last season. He's only ranked as a leading Serie C player. That's our squad. We are Serie C. A long season awaits.